there's a lot of these movies in Clint Eastwood's resume, also known as a girl, a guy, in a movie. Janet, how are you today?
Good.
Looking good, Buckaroo. Um, can you hear me okay? Because I'm like less than a foot from the microphone.
I can hear you.
Good deal. Today we watched a movie from 1980, one of two movies released in 1980 that has Clint Eastwood at the helm, starring in Bronco Billy.
Hmm.
In this movie, he has Lewis. What was his name? Christopher Lewis? No, George Lewis
Hmm.
as his once again another co-star. Of course, at the time he's saddled with Sondra Locke, the Yoko Ono for actors.
Oh, you're funny.
She is. She's horrible. Um, God bless you, Clint. You jumped on that grenade so somebody else did not have to. You definitely were.
Well, she already had someone else, remember? Before he
Yeah,
took her to his
yeah.
house.
He took her. He played house with her, but like he really wanted her from the gay guy. Not understanding that, um, her character's her character's like my biggest problem with this movie. Like she's just in it. She plays a rich dilettante whose husband abandons her at a $30 a night motel, played by Lewis,
Hmm.
and they she apparently gets everybody thinks she dies or gets murdered, and it's kind of interesting. Not really at all interesting. Um, she falls in with this traveling Toby Tyler circus, basically. For those of you in the Midwest, you know what exactly I'm talking about. Toby Tyler used to be a circus in the Midwest where they would go to your local eateries or grocers and they'd throw free tickets, a whole stack of them on each cashier's aisle. How are they making money? They only had one elephant. One elephant.
Hmm.
It was one of those situations. And then Clint Eastwood's got his group, and he plays Bronco Billy, this guy that he's a rootinest, tootinest, most quickest draw in the West, and everybody mispronounces Pecos. It's Pecos. No, 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 that's the map, you idiot. It's not really how it's pronounced. Just
Hmm.
like I live in Bexar County or Gar County, and everybody's like, well, it says Bexar. It's Bexar. Anyway, this movie is interesting for the fact that there's a lot of like kayfabe. They pull the curtain behind them to show you what's really going on,
Hmm.
and they really don't show you enough because I feel like I could have seen more of the side performers. I could have seen more of everybody doing their thing, and I most definitely would have wanted to see the young boy trying to hide his army uniforms or something just to say like, hey, he was in the army, instead of just all of a sudden it gets dropped on you when Clint goes to the sheriff's office because you have this ruffian that he got into a fight. He was drinking too much,
Hmm.
and that leads to the worst part of the movie: the scene, the sheriff out in the wilderness, out in the plains. It looks like the plains of Oregon. Really not too plainy there, but it's flat for that moment, and he's being told by the sheriff. The sheriff is, I think you're pretty quick. I'm also pretty quick too. And I honestly felt like there should have been. I was wanting them to draw on each other. Fuck it. I mean, you're already a
That's
god.
what I thought was going to happen when he was being such a dick to him, and
Yeah.
when he showed up out there in the middle of nowhere. I thought that maybe Clint had said, come on out, and we can try to settle this, whatever type of thing. And when he showed up, that meant like, I'm gonna take out this guy who thinks he's the best of the West or whatever. And
Hmm.
the way he acted, that's what I thought was going to happen. but
I would
I
have
guess
loved it.
he's going to
Go
have to
ahead.
grovel. So that's why he told him to come out there so no one would see it,
I would have
apparently.
loved that movie a lot more if they would have had their drawdown and Clint would have either shot the sheriff and then have to spend the rest of his life on the run, or
Yeah.
if the sheriff would have blown a hole through his appendix or kidney, and like all of the people from the big top come by and they're like pay their last respects, and then they're like, well, fuck, what are we gonna do now? I guess it's time to be homeless. I I don't know. They nobody in this movie has a plan. Nobody in the movie had a plan whatsoever. And I'm not
Hmm.
upset at the fact that they're portraying that, because people are typically in carnies or whatever. They're just there to help break shit down so they can have a few drinks later, and maybe the girl from the balloon tent's gonna fuck you tonight. I mean, I've never worked a carny, but I can only imagine there's not a whole lot of life to look forward to when you're working a carny. Okay.
Mm-mm. Most people I know that I knew in real life through the years, traveling back and forth from, you know, uh, Texarkana, uh, from Little
Okay.
Rock, Texarkana, and then going to New Orleans, Shreveport, all these different areas doing promo type work and stuff like that. You meet a lot of people that are in the carnival industry. And like that one group that you see in the movie where there's a bigger group there of other people that do the same thing. Um, I know a lot of people like that. Then that's just the lifestyle they like, and they all live in RVs, but they have RVs and stuff. This group was worse off than that. That's why I kind of felt sorry for them at the very beginning, because you just had three trucks and a few trailers, and I would have liked to have seen a little more, like you said, of them setting up the tent and what it takes to set it up and get it all ready, because only got to see two or three small shots with people pulling ropes and pulleys to pull the
Big top up.
poles, yeah, for the big top. And you never really see them putting the big top up. You just see them putting up the inside part. But putting up all the seating, and it's just a lot of work. It's a lot more work. And I was trying to figure out who did it all, because you got a guy with a hook on his hand. He's not going to be doing much of that. You have a woman, and then you have basically two other men and an older guy, the announcer guy, right? And Clint. And Clint gets in his truck and drives off during most of the time when they're setting up. So he wasn't one of the ones pulling up the tent. He was out riding his horse or taking his horse to graze or whatever else. And I hate to say this, but you can't have a horse that does those kind of tricks and stuff that's just eating grass, whatever he stops. You got to have feed, and different, an assault lick and a few other things, because and you got to have a special place to keep your saddle and all that. They never did show inside the back of his trailer, to kind of give you an idea of what he had in there for his own horse, right? So I just thought, there was just a lot of things they could have put in there that they chose not to. So I wish they had gave us a little more, a look behind the curtain when it came to the actual life of a person that um, does that type of job for a living, because it's a fly by your seat of your pants kind of job. And the fact they had all this money for drinking beer and going to the club, but they didn't have money to pay each other, to buy new clothes or shoes or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know. It was just hard to follow. It was a lot of gaps in their lifestyles and stuff, which made it really hard.
The writer of this movie, I don't think they really were worried about the details. The details were, and I thought, we'll get those, fix it in post.
Mhm.
And that's just exactly the sentiment that I felt this movie had towards it. It's not a horrible movie. What it
Mhm.
gives you is not enough, though. I demand more from my
Get too
films.
much of some things and not anything of other things that
Yeah,
I feel were needed. Yes.
I demand a lot of the movies I watch, I guess. And this movie here just didn't show me nearly enough the side that I wanted to see. I wanted to see the breakdown. I wanted to see the setup. I wanted to see the fact that, like, if you're the main draw, you're getting about 3 hours of sleep a night because you think you're a badass and you're trying to fuck the prettiest girl in town you just rolled into, and then
Yeah.
you kick her out of your Winnebago, and you try to sleep. You pop your pain pills. You get your melatonin, or you drink your Coors Light or your Dos Equis, whatever it might be. And then by the time you're going to bed, it's time to wake up again because you're an idiot. And I don't mean to sound like I'm running this movie down like a dog, but the more I talk about this film, it's just not going to be good. This movie's
But there was a lot of good things in the movie, I thought.
there's a
It's
lot of
just
good
that
things
they
in it.
didn't put enough onto it.
The things they put into this movie, there's a lot of filler here. I don't like George's character. I don't like George Lewis's character. I sure as shit don't like the fact that Sondra Locke made a paycheck. I know this is like me watching Charlie. This is like watching a Charles Bronson film and being upset that Jill Ireland's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should find another actor to follow. But there's only 6 of these movies with this school strumpet, and she literally plays a strumpet in this movie. And then after the first act, her character does this bipolar switch where she loves being on the road and she likes making up who she is, and she likes the fact that if you don't like who you are, you can just leave and start off somewhere new and nobody knows you, and you can enjoy whatever you've got going on, and you can just pretend and be somebody else and role play all your life. Well, bitch, we've already known that. We have these things called die. And anyway, it's a very much a movie that's out of focus. The parts of the movie that I want to focus on, I'll never see. The parts of the movie that I don't give a shit about, it's shoved down my throat. I liked about half of it, a little bit more than half. I'll give it a 50%. But this movie earns no special favors from me. And you hit it on the head when we were talking behind the scenes, where this movie is not going to be in a DVD collection of mine. I'll never watch it again. I mean, it's not a horrible film. What it gives you is interesting, but your head goes in different directions where this movie could have been so much better if somebody would have wrote the script, sat back, and not said, that'll do, that's good enough. No. Keep it in front of you for 30 seconds and think about what you just wrote, and then go take all that shit filler out of there. Get rid of those 2 miserable characters. I'm sorry, George. George Lewis is a good guy. He was a great guy. He made a lot of good movies, a lot of them with Clint. But this movie here, I don't understand his character at all, in the least bit. Mm-hmm. And I feel so sorry for him. And worse yet, I felt sorry for myself for watching it, because I was thinking I could have slept in late for this. I could have just napped throughout this entire film and just phoned this shit in for the video. Instead, I stayed awake, and I'm gonna be so happy to take my nap tonight, because this movie, this was one of Clint's lesser films. And I hate to say that. For what it gives you, it's pretty okay. The scene between the sheriff and him, like the sheriff was supposed to be played by, who was in Smoking the Bandit? Who was the sheriff in that? Gleason? I feel like the sheriff should have been Jackie Gleason. Should have been Jackie Gleason. He would have fucking knocked it out of the park. The sheriff doesn't do bad in this movie.
They probably might have asked him. I don't know. I didn't get to dig into that kind of stuff to find out, but he would have done well. He was that type of character.
Yeah, and I kept bumping into the damn trivia where, like, Clint Eastwood said this is one of his favorite films. I'm thinking to myself, when compared to what? When you compare this to, like, any of the really bad movies he did in the mid-'70s?
You got to remember, most of those interviews where he says that it's one of his favorite movies, and the story about the lifestyle of what it's like and what you go through when you read the book about the main character, Bronco Billy, uh, wanting to portray that character because he thought it was a good wholesome kind of life this guy lived, basically by doing the charity work and things like I said, and being a trick writer and wanting to do that since he was a little boy, right? And getting to do that and become that character, even though it never really paid real well and never made it, it never made it big. Because remember, they kept saying throughout the movie that they were trying to save up enough money to where they could buy their own ranch somewhere and open it up so kids could come there and watch, trick riding and roping and doing all the things, like a Yellowstone type place where kids could go and learn how to be a cowboy, that kind of stuff. But it was sad to me, the fact that we never did get to see that. We never got to see that ending that they kept talking about throughout the movie. We never see that. We never see them achieve that goal. So their character arc is never met, basically. And that was one of the letdowns for me to see this movie and want to see them, a few of them. I'm not saying I wanted to see all of them do it, because there was a few characters I really didn't give a shit, which is sad to say. And Sandra Locke's character was one of them, because she was supposed to be already a spoiled, rotten brat that had millions of dollars, and she didn't even have to be there. She could have left at any time and go back to her lavish lifestyle and leave them basically eating one meal a day and living in a rundown little falling apart little camper that they pull behind their trucks, right? That constantly were breaking down and had to work on. So, her lifestyle got better really when it came to her meeting these people, simply for the fact they added enrichment to her life, of actually caring about life and other people besides themselves, all those type of things. So that part wasn't so bad. I like that part of the story. To me, that really is the only part of the story that kept me wanting to find out what was going to happen with them. Her character reminded me of two or three other uh, characters in different movies. Like I said, it reminded me of Overboard. You get a stuck-up brat that basically falls overboard and knocks herself unconscious and forgets who she is. And she was a bitch to somebody and she owed money to him. So he ends up calling and saying he knows the woman, because no one knows who she is, and goes and gets her and brings her home and makes her his slave. Basically, she's cooking, cleaning, and taking care of his kids because she doesn't know who she is. She thinks he's his wife. So basically, it's that type of thing. Even though Sandra Locke's character knows who she is and stuff, but she's stranded there because the husband that she just had, just married, dumps her and leaves, takes the car and leaves because she's a total bitch to him. And he realizes, damn, I don't know why I did this shit. And so he leaves, takes the car and leaves her. And then the people are looking for her. Her stepmother's trying to find her and find out that they can't find her, and that they found him, but he's saying he doesn't know where she is and all this stuff. So they think that she's been murdered. So you see on the headlines, heiress, murdered or whatever by husband or something like that. So you got all this kind of stuff, deja vu soap opera thing going off in the background, which really doesn't have anything to do with the story of Bronco Billy and his road show, So I don't know. It was kind of lame, and that part of it, but I liked the Bronco Billy part of it. I enjoyed that side, the trick shot thing with the very first girl that you see come out, and he's got her because he's trying to struggle to try to find someone to stay in that character in his show. The one who throws the plates in the air, and she's like a little showgirl, cowgirl, and gets strapped down to his wheel that he spins and he shoots balloons, and then throws a knife and takes a balloon out, that way. They all quit because none of them want to join their show and do that job. And they never mention that I kept waiting for him to talk about the past person that used to do the show in that position. But from what we can gather, it's just random women that they choose. And no wonder they can't stay or keep the show going, is they can't even keep their this star supplied with a person and assistant to make the show more exciting. So little things like that, they never do answer. And that's kind of hard, you know, to root for something that you can't even get answers to the questions you have while you're watching the movie. So I had a hard time with a few things like that. But it wasn't being
That's the
as
entire
bad
film.
as the other movie where she was a singer. When she was that one, that was way worse than this one. So to me,
Any movie with Sondra Locke is immediately improved when you take her character out of it.
mhm.
I know that sounds cruel. I know that sounds like not nice, but I'm answering the question in my head. Well, what would be a good Sondra Locke movie? Well, a movie she's not in. The Empire Strikes Back was so good without her. I mean, I loved the Blues Brothers when Sondra Locke wasn't in it. You know, I fucking can't stand Sondra fucking Locke. It's a broken record. I know you guys are tired of hearing about it. It's like I wonder if Bruce liked Muslims today.
But
No, he
this is the
doesn't.
last one, right? This is the last movie we're watching with her in it.
I don't know if it is or if next week's will be the
Because
last.
the movie she made after this one, wasn't it one of the Dirty Harry ones? Or is there Any Which Way You Can? Is that the last one?
Any which way, I believe, is
Yeah.
one of the next ones.
Okay, so we have one more movie with her because she did 6 movies with him in their relationship because he was enamored with her. And you can see why. I mean, he could pick her up and throw her around the room. She's just a tiny little thing.
If that's all that's required for Clint to like a woman, like easy to throw, like that's
She was built like a 12-year-old kid, just like I said. She was 30 years old, 32 years old or whatever, and she was built
39.
like a boy. Well, whatever she was. When they met, she was like 32 when they met.
And the thing is that she could have played Rogue in this movie because she had her premature gray shit coming in.
Yeah, in her bangs area. Yeah.
She had that, and she says, "I just turned 30."
Mm-hmm.
And then
yeah, but I know a couple girls in their 20s that are totally white just because it's hereditary for them to have premature gray, and lots of guys that have the same
thing. The problem
thing.
is that they don't lie about their age. Sondra Locke lied about her age every time her mouth opened up about it.
And she could get away with it because she was tiny. When you go to a restaurant and you're with a group of 10 people and everybody's 5'7" or taller, and she's 5'1", okay, and they go in and they go around, they get a couple of pitchers of beer and bring it down, and she's sitting there and they put a comic or a coloring book and some crayons in front of her because with the people she was with, she looked 12 or 10 or 9. So, she could get away with it. She could lie and get away with it because she looked really young because she was so little and tiny. I mean, she must have weighed, 90 pounds, 98 pounds, 100 at the most. I mean, she was very small. She was standing in front of Clint, and her head came up to the top of his shoulders. I mean, she looked like a little kid. Even though she was dressed in, a silk nightie for most of the beginning of the movie and stuff like that, and tiny underwear and all that different stuff, like she was from the 1920s. It didn't look like clothes that a person would wear in 1980. So that was a little bit, it was like she was trying to be a 1920s or 40s movie star or something. But she looked young. I mean, she still looks very young. Well, she did in this movie, I meant.
So, according to the trivia side of IMDb, now mind you, anybody could write trivia, so this could be like Wikipedia where you're reading lies. However, Antoinette is said to be turning 30 years old, where actually Sondra Locke was 36 at the time the movie was made.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once again, age comes into fucking discussion. She can't stand Grim Reaper. During a promotional interview with US Weekly, Sondra Locke pretended she was 3 years younger than she was. Unable to keep her life straight, she pretended to be 6 years younger in a separate interview with Canadian TV Guide.
Mm-hmm. That's what it makes it hard to keep your lies straight when you're constantly trying to cover your tracks.
I just can't stand her. I'm not like she's the Somali actress in my opinion. Like she's the lowest tier actress. I know that's not really nice, but She's just the lowest tier actress. She believes everybody else is dumb. She thinks she's getting away with a lot of stuff. I'm really like 12. I'm
Well, you
really
got to
like
remember, I'm going to defend her the same way, because when you have someone like Clint Eastwood, one of the hottest directors and actors at the time, that coddles her and she's living with him, and he constantly tells her, you're going to win an Academy Award and this, that, and the other. He's constantly bragging on her and telling her how wonderful she is, and he's sleeping with her. Why wouldn't she think that her head be this big? I'm just saying, I don't see that many actors today. I mean, Kevin Costner felt the same way. He still does it. He pushes his weight around, thinking that his way is the best way because he's smarter than everyone else. I mean, look what happened on Waterworld, and on that one he did about Wyatt Earp. He thinks his shit don't stink, and he ended up getting out of to the other show, Yellowstone. The same thing, because he felt he was butting heads with the writer and not getting what he wanted. So he said, fuck it, I'm leaving. And he left. So, some actors or directors or whatever, they just think their shit don't stink, and they can do whatever they want, or they walk off the set. I mean, what's his name? That one Baldwin guy, he does the same stuff. There's tons of them in Hollywood.
Or he shoots your fucking director of photography.
Yeah, whatever. And they get away with shit. So, why not? Look at Clint. Clint was the director of this movie, but a couple movies ago, they Directors Guild passed a law called the Clint Law. So, because they hated him that much, because he was pushing his weight around and getting rid of people. If he didn't like the director, he would make such a stink that they ended up letting him be the director, basically. And they would hire people to be a director only if they would bend to the will of Clint Eastwood. So he had a huge head, and he felt like, his shit didn't stink, and his way was the best way, or I wouldn't work on your stuff, or I won't work for you. So, and if he gets away with it, they're going to keep doing it. Then why not? If it works for him, right? So if it worked for Sondra Locke at the time, I can see why she did it. I mean, every other big actress or whatever, I can't even, I mean, I couldn't tell you right now any other actresses' names, that could just get what they wanted by snapping their finger, basically. I mean, I don't remember names.
Actress.
Actress. Cher could do it, but Cher was a good actress. So,
I'm gonna throw a name out there. Julia Louis-Dreyfus could. Julia Louis-Dreyfus could definitely do that. You've got other ladies. I mean, this is really not an important part of our conversation, but just there are women out there that could like start changing the.
But they could act. See,
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, Sondra Locke's position was, I'm with Clint. Clint thinks I'm a good actress, and he's going to get me whatever movie I want. But after a little bit of time, he was realizing it was getting harder and harder for him to get scripts where he could get a company to pay for it when she was going to be in it. So he was like, I can't keep going with this baggage around my neck. It's hurting me about me getting positions that I need to keep my career going. So, so even if you think you're in love and whatever else, sooner or later it gets tiresome, to have to drag someone along with you wherever you go, baggage. So he decided to rid himself of the baggage, and his career kept going, and she ended up passing away. So we don't know for sure what might have happened with her. And it's sad to say that for someone who was such small breasts, for her to have to die from breast cancer, I just feel really bad for her, I didn't realize that.
Funniest things I've ever. Wow. Okay.
What?
That's fucked up, Janet.
I know. I can't believe I said that, but we were watching this last movie, and I was like, she's so tiny, like a boy, and then I read that she had died from breast cancer. So that just it's really sad to think about that she didn't even get a boob job or do any of that stuff. And she dies from cancer from having breast cancer. Because I knew a lot of people who've had breast cancer that had to do chemo and all that stuff and had their breasts removed and reconstruction and all that stuff. But I don't know. I never would have thought that with someone built like her, that they would get breast cancer. So it was really sad. But she did smoke. So, but a lot of people smoked in the 80s, men and women.
Yeah.
So it's really sad. I mean, I feel for her. You know, she, you know what? Every week when they had that show, America's Got Talent, okay, and they would show all these people backstage going up there with their number on, performing for the judges, right? And then you'd see these people that didn't make it to the show on stage, except for the presenting with the three people that were judging to see if they'd make it to get on the show, right?
Mhm.
And they would be awful. I mean, they'd be like a cat scratching or screaming if you're having a cat fight behind your house or whatever. It was just horrible. And I felt bad for these people. I said, they're making money off of showing these people performing because they think they're good, because their family or loved ones or whoever told them, wow, you're the best voice I've ever heard, and they fell for it. They believed it instead of recording themselves and listening to it themselves, realizing this is what you really sound like. It's just sad when you see an actress like that, movie after movie, getting up there trying to act, and they're really just no good. But they think they're better than they are because people tell them that they are. Just like people were afraid to tell Clint, I don't like this, or you need to reshoot that because there's some bad stuff in there, and he would get mad and say, I'm the director. So people are afraid to tell someone no if they think they're going to lose their job. So it must be. I wonder what that's like to be in a position where you can be making something that's really bad, but everyone's just going to lap it up and do what they're told simply because they're not going to say no to you because they don't want to lose their job. And then later on, the movie bombs, and then you blame everyone else except for your direction for the movie. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just feel sorry for everyone that was involved in it, because everyone suffered basically, because once your name's on there as the casting director or the editor or the person who did the score for the movie and all that, and it's a bomb, all because the director was like, just like that one movie about the guy that was struck by lightning, and he was white. His mother was struck by lightning when she was pregnant. Remember that one?
Oh,
Ghost. I can't remember the
Powder.
name. Yeah, Powder. Okay, it would have been a good movie, but the director had tunnel vision, and all they wanted was what they wanted on screen. They didn't listen to anyone else, and look what happened to the movie. That could have been a huge success and really good. Because the director's always right, like they say. So, that's why it's important to know who you have when you decide to have something done. That's why storyboards and all the different stuff is so important, because then you kind of get an idea when you're presenting it to producers that's going to actually pay for the project, of who's going to do what job. And when you decide when you're going to get Clint, well, you know what you're getting. You know that this is the kind of stuff he's made. There might be a few things that don't fit, but overall, he's a good director. But as he's gotten farther into his career, he has learned from some of his mistakes and improved on them, because he has won Academy Awards and stuff now for Best Direction. So, and I honestly, I like more of his movies than I don't like. So I think he has gotten better as a director from the very first movie I've seen to the farther in the future. And he has made a couple of ones that weren't so good, but to me it was like he was enamored with an actress that caused him to make bad decisions. But I guess that could happen to anyone. He just happens to be a director. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll know as we keep going, because we're getting to past her movies. Now we'll be able to see his movies, and maybe he got her influence, and we'll see a difference.
Next week is going to be the last movie of her any film we're going to watch.
Yeah.
And
so I'm excited about seeing that.
Any which way you can, which is another Clyde film.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to that. I do like I did like the last one, except for her. And I like this movie, except for her. Actually, I
Yeah.
was really surprised that George Lewis played a character that I didn't understand because they just the script was fucking dumb as shit, and I just don't like the fact that he goes nuts whenever she leaves him. And like that's a 90-pound diet, dude. Go celebrate your life, enjoy yourself.
Well, see, I didn't look at that way. To me, when she woke up and he was gone, it was more that he was pissed because she shunned him basically. So she just married
Mm-hmm.
him so she could get the money. She could care less about him. So he knew that basically she's not going to give me money. She's not going to help me in any way. So I'm just going to fucking leave. That's what I got from it. But then when she couldn't get a dime to make a phone call, which I thought was pretty sad and lame, but that she just played along with it and let him, drag her around. The fact that she was able to find that one outfit, this laying on a chair in the manager's office, I thought that was kind of funny, but it was all right. I mean, it didn't ruin it for me, but that she's wearing a negligee basically to bed with a face mask on her honeymoon. So, there was some comical stuff in it. It was very funny and lots of
There
areas.
was, but I found myself making fun of it, the movie, than
Yeah.
laughing with the movie. Like when her husband's there, begging, "Can I touch your breast? Might I have a crumb of pussy, miss?
You're
May
the
I please
coldest fish ever.
have a whiff? Have a whiff of your clam?"
Mhm.
I just hated watching this movie. It's as a guy going through a divorce that is going to be perpetual. Apparently, my
Mhm.
divorce is now government funded, so it will never end. Um, it's funny as fuck because this movie just it's going into some meme territory that I see just as a guy in 2026. Might I have a crumb of pussy, miss? And she's like, no. And he just like, I'm done. I'm driving off. And then apparently he murdered her. I I just I didn't know what to say when they started showing some of the stuff going on in her life and her existence. I I'm done. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I
The
was really
movie.
surprised. I kept waiting for you to say something about this. One thing is you do in every single review we've ever done that had guns or guns being shot and going off, you've always made comments about the way they held the gun or the way they cocked the gun or the ammo they were using, something like that. But this one you didn't. And I just thought it was funny because when he had that one girl that was going to be his assistant, he was explaining to her what he was going to do, and
Mhm.
she's like, "You gonna shoot at me?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry, it's just a cap gun." you know but the
Yeah.
fact that he's shooting something, it says he has BBs in it or whatever. He said it's nothing but blanks, it's just buckshot or whatever. And I'm like, that fucking hurts, especially if you get hit in the eye. It can't take your eye out. There was a lot
Yes.
of dumb stuff like that, misconceptions in there that I thought was really stupid. Now if he would have went over to the spinning board, because I've seen these in real shows, right? Real ones. And you don't really have anything in it. It just has like a regular cap, the paper that you put in the kid's cap gun that has smoke and sound, right? That's all that's in those guns. Now, when he shoots, it's something that comes out from the board. It goes poop, pops a balloon. It's not even a bullet that goes there. He should have showed her that. And then when the knife goes, he doesn't really throw the knife. It goes up his sleeve, and it's a special kind of thing that goes up their sleeve. As soon as you let go of it, it goes up your sleeve, and you get the same one over and over again. And it looks like you're throwing a knife, and a knife comes out of the board to pop the balloon to make it look like the knife he was thrown. If he would have went over and showed her that, then it wouldn't have bothered me so much. But the fact that they wanted the audience, people watching the movie, to believe that he was really shooting a gun that had blanks in it with little pellets that would take out the balloon. And then he says, "I'm a good shot." So I just thought that was stupid. So I'm looking at my notes now. That's why I remembered that, because I didn't say it when we were talking about. But the fact that you didn't say anything about the gun part, I was really surprised, because usually you would. But
I,
and
I
plus the
I'm
trivia. Oh, so go ahead.
no. I just I didn't say anything about the guns because one, I didn't get that great look of a gun at the guns, and I know
Mm-hmm.
for a fact like some of these guns are he's kind of bullshitting about them.
Mm-hmm.
The revolver he had was pretty nice. I got to say that much. But I got to say that there's a lot of other parts of this movie that I was far too honed in on looking for details because there's a big story here. And instead of the big story we get where Clint Eastwood is traveling around with a little over a handful of losers that are alcoholics and people running from their past, and instead of it focusing on this neat little rogues gallery that's moving around, not even in a proper RV or retired airport bus. They
Mm-hmm.
they're focusing on what, and that was my entire problem with this movie. That's why I'm not giving it a 60. I'm not giving it a 65. I'm giving it a 50 because this movie skipped over parts where there's obviously good story that could be exposed here, and we could have an entertaining movie for 90 minutes. But what instead I get is this miserably warmed over pastiche shit pile that I don't want to watch again ever. And it's mainly the fact that once again Sondra Locke is being forced down our throats like some Star Wars zombie movie that Disney just can't wait to make because they know they're going to make a fuck ton of money with Star Wars zombie films. As zombie Darth Vader comes back, we'll even animate the old David Prowse machine and have that lumber forth, and that'll make the old guys come and watch it because they don't you guys just love David Prowse as Darth Vader? Don't you think he makes a great Darth Vader character? And we'll even get some old unused James Earl Jones bullshit. This entire movie is just a poorly modified Gollum of what it could have been. This could have been a wonderful Frankenstein movie, but
Well,
instead I get this, and the movie that I get nowhere near what I want to watch. My
well,
bad. I'm sorry.
yeah. The thing is, it did have some good parts in it. It had some good
Yes.
actors too. It had uh, Joffrey Lewis in it, okay, which I love. Jeffrey Lewis, however you want to pronounce
Or
it.
my bad.
I really like him. I really like him in so many movies he's been in, and he's such a good actor. But this part was like, it was crap. It was a crappy part for him. It was the worst part I've ever seen him in. I've never seen him in another movie that was this bad. Okay. So I'll put that down. But it had Scatman Carruthers in it, and he did an awesome job. Very believable character. In every part that he was in, I believe that's who he was in this movie, his part. Even when they were getting in and out of the truck and they're fighting in the rain and everything. And he was like, well, I was the one chosen because I drew the short stick or whatever, everything he did was just good. He was just good at what he did because he's a good actor. Even in this crappy part type of a movie, he was good at it. And he made his parts believable, and so did some of the other characters. The parts that the parts where they're in the Bronco Billy show were all tacky, and comical because that was what they were trying to make the show like, because it was old, outdated. Hardly anybody was buying tickets to go to it because people go to the movies, they go to the pinball shops, they go to the mall, they do all these different things. It's not spending their money going to some carnival show on the side of the road. It's just not. It's outdated. And that's what the story was about. It was about a troop of people that used to make good money and have full tents like they talked about, but now it's dwindling down because people are finding other ways for entertainment. This isn't, something that they would spend their money on. And that one scene where you see Clint walking up and there's like six little boys looking at his fancy car, and they see the other trucks with trailers on it that say Bronco Billy, and they're like, we want to see Bronco Billy. And you hear Clint come up, and their bikes are laying there with their little banana seats and stuff on them. I just thought they were adorable, and I love kids in movies. I love movies that focus on kids and have lots of kids in it, which they did in this one. But it, it it made you think, like, if parents spent more money taking kids to things like this, real baseball games, real swim meets, real other sports events and outdoor shows like rodeos and stuff, because I grew up going to those kind of things, rodeos. And there's rodeos are still big in lots of areas in the South. They have huge rodeos, not just in the South. They do have them in some states, in state of New York, but it's not in the city area. It's outside the city, but people do go to it. They used to go to drag shows, not drags like where people dress in drag, car drag racing shows, at the different speedways. You got NASCAR. I'd rather see people going to those events and taking their kids than going to staying home and buying them a $65 Grand Theft Auto game and letting them play on that all day for weeks and months or whatever. So I would wish there was more of that. It was cute that these kids were saying, we want to see Bronco Billy. And then he talks to them about taking care of themselves and not telling lies and listening to their parents, things like that. The good traditional things that we used to do that parents don't seem to do anymore. And that's why you have kids that are out until 2:00 in the morning instead of, sleeping so they can go to school the next day, to one day graduate and maybe become a doctor or a dentist or a plumber or some good clean cut type of job to where they can pay for their own things, buy their own cars and do their own thing. But we're not pushing that type of stuff anymore. And that kind of made that nostalgia part of that is what kind of made me sad. But I wish it was more of that. If there'd been more of that in this movie, I would have liked it a lot more. But when they started going to the bars and getting drunk and getting in bar fights and stuff like that on top of the story, it was okay because I know that really happened, but they made that more and more of the focus of the movie instead of the carny life or putting up the tents, what the struggles of how they're going to buy gas or get to the next town, that kind of thing. I think would have made the movie a lot more fun and more entertaining, and then have the ending. Like I said, their dream was to get a ranch, and at the end you see them all on the ranch doing different things and having kids coming and stuff. I thought that would have been a really good ending, but it to me it flopped at the end because it didn't give you what you were wanting to see the characters arc go in a good way instead of them all back in jail or something. So I don't know. I was kind of let down by the ending. I was hoping for more and I didn't get it. So I'm not going to give this one as good a score as some of the other ones, even though I found Sandra Locke's character in the one before was horrendous. It ruined the movie. It was terrible. Now I'm not going to give it that low a score, but this one was definitely better. The story was better. Everything was a lot better. Story-wise and more entertaining and everything, but it wasn't as good as it could have been because it just seemed like he gave up on it. He didn't try to finish it. He didn't try to fix the story and put it all together for the viewers.
If you saw this movie, what was your thoughts? Six Nations said it had mostly good cast, but shoehorning Locke into it does it no favors. A lot of familiar faces and good intentions can be seen in Bronco Billy. Yeah, they're plain as day. And the movie that's in your head while you're watching it is more entertaining than you watching this. As the movie goes into its third act, you just shut it off because you're not going to get the movie you deserve. There's obviously some gems in here. There's some really good stuff. I did like the scenes in the hospital where they showed that previously they've been here every year to give a celebrity show, and the mentally disturbed like it, and they thought it was interesting, and that's the reason why they get a free tent out of the deal.
Reminder.
And now you
Trash out.
The tent, the replacement tent they use. I laughed. I thought that was great. But this movie could have done so much more. It just it flopped for me. Next week, we are watching Any Which Way You Can, and this this looks like it might be the last movie we have to endure with Sondra Locke in it. How do you feel?
I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of happy that we're getting over this
Low
arc of.
point, the low point of Clint Eastwood movies.
But I do want to add a few more things that I thought were good about the movie, especially when it came to the different places they went. Like the first time they went to an orphanage that was run by nuns, and Sandra Locke's character asked the nun, "Well, she's talking about they could have lunch there with the kids and stuff," and Sandra Locke doesn't believe when Clint Eastwood told her that they didn't have any money, that they're going to do some things to make some money. And then she asked the nun, well, how much, if you guys don't have any money, you don't even have a phone, can't afford a phone, then how do you pay Bronco Billy and his troupe to come here and do a show? And she goes, they come every year and we never pay them. So she looks at them like they're a bunch of dumbasses because they do all this work and they don't get a dime for it. So she's a very sour person that hates herself and hates life and all that kind of stuff. And she does a good job of portraying that. I feel like maybe she was really there in her life, but I guess you could say that about everybody because everybody has a bad day, right? But
Yes.
another scene, like you were talking about the insane asylum that they go to and perform because he's friends with this doctor, and the doctor is the one that says, yeah, I'll have all the patients help make you a new tent because their tent got burnt down by those brats that had fireworks and they dropped them on the ground and it started a fire in the hay on the ground, right? So they lost their benches and they lost a whole bunch of stuff and their tent. So when he's in there with them in the insane asylum and they're basically sewing, that's what they do. They make American flags and they sell them. That's one of the things to help the patients through the therapy and stuff. They teach them how to sew, and they're making this tent. And Clint tells the doctor, I really want to thank your people for helping me. So I want to go and tell them personally how I feel about it. So he says, sure. So he's in there with all those people sitting at all the sewing machines, and you can see all the fabric and there's, stuff everywhere. And he looks, and from behind Clint, you're looking at all these people sitting there behind sewing machines. And he's like, I just want to say thank you guys for all your hard work. You're really helping us. And well, he's just going on, pouring his heart out to these people. And then their looks on their face are like, they just have a blank look on their face like they're all on lithium or whatever, right? And then the doctor says, 3 cheers for Bronco Billy, hip, hip, hooray. And you see nothing, it's like crickets in the background. I just thought that was funny. I started laughing. So there are lots of good parts in this movie that make you laugh. But I just don't want anyone to think that when you watch this, you're going to get what you think you're getting when you watch the trailer, because you're definitely going to get let down if you do that. But if you start to watch this knowing that you get what you get, basically, you won't be so let down. And the movie is more entertaining than quite a few movies that I have watched before. It's just that you want more from it than you're going to get out of it. That's the only thing I wanted to say about it. I wanted to add that because there is some good scenes in this movie.
Dennis Hackin wrote the original story as a satire of the fading American West myth. There's a real Bronco Billy back in the silent film era in the early 1900s. It was Tom Mix era.
Yeah.
Gilbert M. Anderson, born Maxwell Henry Aronson. He lived till 71. He's an American actor, writer, film director, producer. He was the first star of the Western film genre.
Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because when you said Tom Mix, remember in the movie Tombstone, when Wyatt Earp passed away, Tom Mix in real life, went to his funeral.
Yes.
And he cried at the funeral. So, the historical part of it, of what type of career a lot of people chose to have by doing those types of sideshows and traveling around, they were pretty good people. They just wanted to put on a good show, like the Annie Oakley show and stuff like that. If you go back and look at that, they really were hardworking people. That's all they did. They lived on the road, and they did shows, and that's how they made their money. So I thought this had a lot of potential to be really good if they just not cut corners. And that very first statement that you made when we just finished watching the movie, and you were talking about that you could understand Clint when he was using this script to share what it's like basically to be a director and to make movies.
Mhm.
Remember what you were saying about
Very,
that?
very very self-referential film.
Hmm.
Very, very much peek behind the curtain. If you're involved in any sort of performance art or whatever, this
Hmm.
movie, this movie is a very good peek as to what Clint goes through. But I'm pretty certain his life is a little easier than this.
Yeah,
Pretty.
by this time it was. But you got to remember, I think that when he was visualizing putting this on film after reading the story, he was thinking back through his whole career as a starving actor that had to go to Europe. You remember to
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
didn't
because
even speak.
after Maverick, he didn't really have a whole lot going on. He
Mm,
had some money and he had pull, but he didn't have everything he wanted.
yeah.
Him going off to Europe, that changed everything for him. I mean,
Mhm.
during the filming of The Good, Bad, the Ugly, if he's not due on set, he's flying out to Spain. He's hitting the links. He's hitting the
Mhm.
golf courses. That's it. And if there's a pretty girl somewhere between there, he's going to sink his dick in it
Yeah,
because every
and he admitted that on that one little video I was able to share with you when he did
yes,
that one interview, and he said that he was asked way back before he really got into being an actor or anything. He was asked by a friend, "Do you want to go with me? I'm going to an acting class." And he goes like, "Nah." And he goes, his friend said, "There's gonna be a lot of pretty girls there." All right, I'll go. So he likes the women and he loves little tiny blondes. That's what he really seemed to lean towards. Because I think both his wives, when he was married to, were blondes, pretty blondes. So he liked blonde women. I'm not saying he didn't see some brunettes, but the women he married were blondes, or the ones that he lived with and stuff were blondes, from what I could tell from the looking
boys do.
into his background.
So, what have you learned so far about watching all these Clint Eastwood movies? Is there something you can take away about two-thirds through, and you can just give
I
that?
would say he definitely improved as he went because he does learn from his mistakes. I can say that. Now, he might be slower at learning from women, his mistakes with women, than he is when it comes to making movies. But as he progresses so far from the very first movie I've seen to this one, he's definitely getting better at choosing scripts, choosing the crews that he wants to work on his films, like the people that build the sets, the people that do the makeup, the people that do the squibs and the other stuff for fire and that kind of stuff, the CGI stuff, makeup. I mean, all that. You can see he improved better. It gets better and better and better quality. Now, to me, he seems like he's still struggling with getting really, really, really good screenplays. Um, uh, to me, I don't know. I know movies that I've seen that are older than these ones we've watched. The newer ones that we've seen that he's really good at. But a lot of them, he doesn't change the screenplay to fit his what he wants. So to me, he learns as he goes to pick stories that already have what he wants in them without having to make so many changes to it, to where it pisses people off on set. I don't know if that makes sense yet, but it will as we go because I'm thinking of movies that I've already seen, but most of the ones we watched I had never seen before. So it was kind of hard to judge it beforehand. But after watching him, I think he's definitely gotten better as a director and an actor. Uh, watching him grow on those aspects. I just can't wait to see him mature when it comes to women. So I'm waiting to see if that happens with the newer stuff, because I haven't really been looking at new stuff, or who his new wife was, or any of that stuff. I'm only looking into the women he's with at the different movies that
The,
we're,
the,
we're
the latest
reviewing.
wife he had was really cute. She was an LA fitness babe and sports weather girl.
Was she blonde?
What?
Was she blonde?
She's brunette.
Oh, okay.
She's
Because the what I'm saying is, all I'm looking at when I look stuff up, I only look up stuff about trivia for this movie, what happened behind the scenes on this movie, because I'm trying not to look at stuff, more recent stuff. I'm trying to just see what's been going on with him from when we start to now, where we are in the movie. Uh, so I don't add stuff to what I think before I should. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I've been trying to do, is stay in the time that we're looking at, or the movie 1980. So I haven't looked past 1980 for any trivia or any new stuff about him, besides stuff I already knew because I saw other movies. So I'm trying to stay away from the digging stuff up before I need to know what it is or how it might have affected the movie, because I don't want to take away from movies I haven't seen yet. Just like I said, if I really hate an actress like Jane Fonda, which I won't watch her movies if I unless you force me to have to watch one for this kind of stuff. Um, I don't want to watch it because I don't respect the woman, and I don't want to put anything in her tail for the way she treated our soldiers, period. I mean, I can help it. I'm a military brat. It makes it to where I won't give her a good review because I just don't like the woman for who she is. Has nothing to do with her movies. And I don't like to do that. I don't want to take something from someone that they earned, like the movie The Princess Bride. I gave it a really good review because it was a freaking phenomenal movie, even though who the director was is a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? And it was hard to not, say
Yeah,
anything
I disagree
bad
because
about
that director was one of the few voices of rationale when the cancel culture came around.
it.
He
Hmm.
was trying to scream, "Stop! Don't do this! Don't do this! You don't want to do this!" And you're you think he's a piece of shit. He wasn't great. Not trying to gas him up too much, but he did try to stop cancel
When
culture.
yeah,
In
when it came to being a director, he made good decisions, but on his personal level, I don't think he did. And I'm trying not to judge him by his personal choices on his direction, and I didn't. I was able to
well,
separate, but that's not easy. Just like you've seen with your guy that you can't stand. You have a very hard time taking the guy you can't stand out of the character he's playing in the movie. Jack Black, for one. That's all I'm trying to say, is I try not to do that. I don't want to judge him because he's this person. I'm trying to judge him on just his directorial uh, view on the movie that we're watching. That's what I'm saying. And it's hard sometimes not to put personal feelings in there, right? That's
right.
all I'm saying.
I do like parts of this movie. It's
Hmm.
not nearly enough for me to give it a positive review.
So,
This is a bad Clint movie. I'm just saying that there's better out there. You could spend just a moment surfing through his catalog, and you'll find quickly very much a better film. Even if he does feel like this is one of his favorite movies, I honestly feel like it was because of his personal feelings of revealing all the stuff behind the scenes that you go through when you're putting on your own shows. And
mhm.
I feel that he was really speaking from the heart in some aspects. How the kids see him, how he views kids, is very important. I think that's great, but I don't think this is a good movie, and
Oh, can
I
I add
can't
one
stand
more thing about what you said about kids? One thing
it.
I
Yeah,
definitely do like about Clint Eastwood's point of view when it comes to children is that he believes children should get to be children. He's a firm believer in that kids should have heroes to look up to and dreams and to be kids and have that chance in their life because it's such a short amount of time in your life to
Mm-hmm.
get to be a child. And I like that aspect. Whenever he talks about anything like that in interviews and stuff about kids, and even in his movies, it comes across in his movies. Just like he said, he puts a lot of effort into portraying his point of view when it comes to children, some things about military, judging people, all those different things. And he does put it in there, and sometimes he takes a hit for it. But I like that about him as a director because he don't take no shit. When he thinks something is good, he's going to make it, whether anybody else likes it or not. And if they don't want to pay him for it, someone else will. You know what I mean? And he knows that, and he uses it to his advantage. And to me, that makes him even a better director in Hollywood, and that's why he's lasted so long. Is because he doesn't give a shit what other. This company might say, "Oh, we don't like your movies because they're too liberal, or they're too conservative, or the other ones it's got too many boobs in it, or whatever it is." He just says, "Fuck you, I'll go somewhere else," and he does. And there's another person wanting to go cha-ching and produce his movie. So and he's earned that because he's worked hard to get that, and he should have that. And look what it's done for him, and look what it's done for all of us who's gotten to see all his movies, right? So I don't know where Hollywood would be, honestly, without him and other directors like him and actors like him that believe in what they're doing, for the fact that they're an actor, you know what I mean, and they're good at what they do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I say stuff about some of them having big heads, and some of them do. And most of the time, a person who gets a big head, it ends up hurting their career, not helping them. So, but there's nothing wrong with saying you believe in yourself, and to, like, tell his children, his own kids, I'm not going to give you credit in this movie, even though you're in it and you're doing a part of an orphan or whatever it is, because you have to do that for yourself. I'm giving you the opportunity to see what it's like to work in a movie, to be an actor, to do this, that, or whatever it is, but they have to do it on their own. So now when you see his son or his daughters in movies, it's because they chose to go for it on their own, not because daddy's name was on it. You see what I mean? And you don't see that a lot. Just like I said, many sets that I've worked on, everything's set up and you're on like fourth take of something in a cafeteria or whatever, and here comes a couple producers and they have their grandkid or their wife or their girlfriend. They say, I want them in the scene. And then we have to adjust everything on set to fulfill this producer's dream, because they're paying for the movie to be made, or the TV series or show or whatever. And then we got to move everything around and put in characters that don't belong there, but they have to add them and change the script and do whatever to fit them in because the producer asked for it. And to me, I think it's very unprofessional for them to do it, but they're the ones with the money and they get what they want. That's the way it is. So sometimes even the director has to say yes to something, even if they don't want it. So, and to me, it's, that's the way it is. That's the movie industry or the entertainment industry, because it happens in, music videos, it happens in commercials, happens in lots of stuff. And the people paying the money are the ones that have the most say. So that's life. But Clint didn't do that very often, I don't think. Because remember, he put other people in, other people that were in other movies, or his director or assistant director, in parts. He gave them parts in the movie. Now, every one of them were uncredited. From when I was going through and looking, like when the director was in it, or one of the writers, whatever was in a part, they all say uncredited. So he didn't give them credit. He just let them be in it as a character. So, so it's whatever.
Kind of a vibe. Other than that, do you have any final thoughts before we part for the day?
No, that I pretty much said everything I felt. But as long as everybody goes and watches this movie, and doesn't expect, what they think they're going to get from the actual trailer, which most people do, because you'll see the trailer and go, "Oh, it's going to be so good," and then you see it and you go, "Oh, yeah, it was all right," and that sucks. I wish all movies were as good as the one when you see it on the trailer. You know what I mean? That would be awesome, but that's not reality.
No, not realistic in the least bit. I thought this movie had some promise, and it looked better last week before I watched it. The movie that's in my head, I think that's a very good movie. I think it would have really delved into the lives of all the people around him that made him Bronco Billy, that made it a production worth watching. But instead, we get this movie that's just another Sondra Locke film, misappropriated money. That's it. Go ahead, Janet. Walk us out of here. 50%.
Just want to say thank you to everyone who hung out with us today, and hope we didn't ruin it for you. I mean, if you really like the movie, that's great, but you can leave a comment. Uh, what you thought of the movie, if you did see it, if you liked it or not. Because I did have a couple people tell me they liked it; they thought it was really good. I guess it depends on what you expect. If you get what you expect from the movie, then I guess it's entertainment, and that's what it is, entertainment. So that's it.